That's a lot of what was happening in there. So when you get into it, we can lay out a situation and its components linearly like this. But really what's happening is the games move fast, okay? So all of these things are reinforming one another constantly, which is what makes the fighting games hard, right? It's hard to tell at the outset what exactly is going on. But what ends up resulting is you can think of it as a kind of conversation between both players, okay? So it makes the situation very fluid. You start the match, you present a set of options, they present a set of options. You guys are both countering those against each other. That leads to another kind of situation where you're presenting other options that were counters to those, and you just go from there, okay? Now, the cool thing is there are some basic situations that new players can and should recognize to create advantage from, to anchor their play in. So let's get into some of those. Now, we're going to have these recaps coming through just because we know we're throwing a lot of stuff at y'all. So we really want to show that there's an organic logic to everything that we're showing you. If you just follow it and think through it, it'll make a lot of sense and help kind of ground what you're doing and what we're talking about. So if I win by having more life or KOing my opponent, which happens when I make more advantageous decisions, then I make more advantageous decisions by understanding the situations I find myself in and creating advantage from those, right? So that begs the question, what are those basic situations and how do I create advantage from them? So let's talk about that. So the first and most fundamental one is going to be punishment. So punishment means landing a guaranteed attack on your opponent as a direct result of a risky decision, they made. And there's two basic punish situations. There's block punishes, which you already saw that with when I did the uppercut against Casper. He was able to get a full combo on me after blocked it. I couldn't block that. There was nothing I could do. I was still recovering from the move. So he gets a block punish off of that because it's unsafe. And the other is anti-airs, okay? And anti-airs counter jump ins. Let me hop back into the game because anti-airs are really big. While we load, let's sip some more coffee. I'm gonna mute for a second. So,
no, Kris, your mic's not working.
uh-oh. Am I back now?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, let's show one more block punish for the sake of being thorough. So I'm holding back right now, and he gets a punish. It even tells you on the screen if you got the punish, which is nice. Nice feature of the game. All right, so let's talk about anti-airs. So in 2D fighters especially, anti-airing is probably the most fundamental skill you want to get down as soon as possible, along with block punishes. The reason being that if, Casper, back up in the corner for a second. If he can't do anything about me constantly doing this shit, I'm just going to do that because those are really hard to deal with options, right? And why not? Okay. Now, this is block punishable if I do it deep enough. And if I jump in, and here I'm about to jump at you, bud. If I jump in, he's got his anti-airs to knock me out. Okay. Now, this is really, really important because the game doesn't really open up much deeper than just dealing with cheesy stuff until you can punish unsafe options and until you can keep people from jumping in on you. Because here's the thing, Casper, do a jump in and just do like a full combo on me off the jump in. Okay, so he got a good chunk of damage. He got me to the corner, which we won't cover in this session, but corner pressure is huge in this game. You don't ever want to be in the corner. Just keep that in mind. You always want your opponent in the corner. But so there's a huge reward for jumping in. And if your opponent can't do anything about it, like, why the hell not? Okay, so you need to lock that down because what happens once you lock down unsafe special moves or unsafe options, and once you lock down anti-airs, because your opponent is going to start to just sit on the ground and they're going to have to play what's called the neutral game, okay? And we're going to switch to that slide here in a second, but I want to make it very clear that the neutral game does not open up until you can keep people on the ground and keep them from doing choosy stuff on you, okay? So one last note on anti-airs. They are not raw reactions. I know for the longest time, I always thought my anti-airs had to be like raw reactions, and I would get so frustrated because I would go into a match and I'd be focused on the ground game. I'd be trying to space, my attacks and things. And a dude would jump and he would just get in, and like I would just watch it happen and I couldn't do anything about it because I wasn't really ready for it. And that's the thing, is there's a lot of things in fighting games that seem like entirely reaction based, but they're really a mixture of yomi, which is understanding what your opponent wants to do, and reaction. So if instead of just playing my game and just like, all right, I'm just going to react whenever he jumps, what I'm doing when I'm playing is I'm looking at the spacing that he likes to jump at. Okay, I'm trying to figure that out as soon as possible, and I'm trying to shut that down as soon as possible. Because once I do, then I get to play my game, right? And there's a lot of things in fighting games that are like that. With punishing, which we'll cover later, is very similar, where it is a reaction, but you can have that reaction preloaded with an expectation, and you should. It'll make you better at the Yomi side of the game. So, say you've got your punishes down. What happens if your opponent plays safe or catches on mid-match and quits giving you opportunities to punish them? Already kind of touched on this, but welcome to the neutral game. All right, now this is cool stuff. Neutral is a situation where neither player has clear advantage, i.e. both are standing, and are looking for safe ways to create advantage against their opponents. And there's 3 basic ways to do this. And they have what's called a rock, paper, scissors relationship. And all that really means, like to a fighting game player, is there's a set of options that you can rotate through and that your opponent can rotate through. And if both of you understand those options, then what's going to happen is you guys are going to you're going to essentially be playing rock, paper, scissors to an extent with one another, where you're guessing what option they're going to do and countering it. Okay, so to start the rock, paper, scissors cycle, let's talk about poking. And actually before that, one thing about neutral. Neutral is very much a buzzword, and there's a lot of things in fighting games that are buzzwords. You'll hear neutral, you'll hear footsies. The thing about it, neutral can be very complicated. Okay, it can be, but I think it's helpful, especially as a beginner, instead of starting at the complexity, try to find a very fundamental and simple way to look at a complex situation and then build your knowledge from there. Okay, what I'm about to show you comes from an article written by a guy named Machibu, who's a really strong Guilty Gear player, and I'll send y'all a list of resources and stuff to read on your own. But he basically breaks neutral down into 3 fundamental components that have a rock, paper, scissors relationship. And I think that's really all you need. Like even at a high level, if you break down their games, whether they're thinking in these terms or not, this is what they're doing. Okay, so don't feel like neutral is this big complex beast that you'll never master. It's really pretty straightforward. And if you limit your options down to these 3 things and then start paying attention to your opponent, you're going to realize that you're playing really good neutral before you know it. So let's talk about poking. This is performed by whiffing a strong, safe attack to contain an opponent by covering a certain space or beating a certain option. Let me demonstrate a basic poke here. So Casper, if you'll just hold it still for me.
Yep.
All right. So a lot of characters in this game, there's a lot of like kind of universal stuff in Grand Blue, which also makes it good for learning. It's easy to switch between characters. But generally, a standing medium attack is going to be a decent poke for everybody. Okay. And the characteristics of it are that it comes out relatively quick, has pretty good range, has about like a 2-character range. Grand is actually on the stubbier side compared to some of the other characters. And it doesn't stay out very long. And that's actually very important. We'll get to that here in a second. But the important thing you want to understand about poking, and this took me a while to get, is you don't need to hit them with the poke. You don't need to actually walk in range and hit them. It's a lot of times more effective if you're whiffing it a little bit in front of them. Okay, because what you're really trying to do, you're not actually trying to get a hit. The advantage that you're getting here is you're controlling space, and you're forcing them to respond to you controlling space. If you get a hit, awesome, that's even greater advantage, right? But really what you want is just, you want the space control right here, okay? Now, what happens if Casper is like, dude, I'm tired of this guy just poking me with this stupid button? Well, what he's gonna be doing is the next option in the rock, paper, scissors. That's called whiff punishing, okay? And you do this by walking just outside of an opponent's poke range, and then you attack with a high priority and or high damage button after they whiff their attack on you. So a brief note on priority. In this game, different moves have different priority based on their strength. So light attacks have lowest, medium have mid, obviously heavy have the highest. If you have two high priority, or if you have two like prioritied moves that hit at the same time, you're going to get a clash, that super anime thing that just happened. Okay. There's a whole situation that comes out of that we're not going to touch on today, but just know that that's there. Now, if two moves connect and they are not the same strength, whichever one has the highest priority is actually going to win. Okay. So for that reason, if you're whiff punishing and you're trying to catch someone's poke and they're using a medium button, if you have a good heavy button to whiff punish them with, do that, because that's just going to increase your chances of winning that interaction. So that aside, let's talk about what are the actual mechanics of a whiff punish, what's happening. Okay. When you swing a move in this game, you have what's called a startup, an active, and a recovery. Basically, think if you're throwing a punch in real life, you're gonna let's do jab, but even then I guess as startup, you're gonna rear your punch back, you're gonna throw it, and then you're gonna have to let it follow through, right? When you're rearing back the punch and when it's following through, you're not gonna hit the opponent. It's the same thing in fighting games. There is a point of time where your fist is flying through the air that it can make contact with their face, and after that time has expired, you can't hit them anymore. It's the same thing here. So a whiff punish is meant to avoid the time that the move is active and catch it on the back end. So when he's swinging his arm around to the tail end, right there on the left side of the screen, it says he got a punish. That is a whiff punish. He's actually hitting my move after it's gone into recovery with his. Now you can see here, like we're doing a very controlled situation, and it's still relatively hard to get. And this just speaks to what I said before about it's not a full reaction. It's hard to get on a full reaction. You really have to have a read on your opponent's tendency and just be kind of preloaded and ready to put that whiff punish out there and catch them. Okay. So next thing, say you've been poking, okay? Your dude starts whiff punishing you, but say you get the better of him. You're whiff punishing him instead. What that's going to incentivize your opponent into doing, he's going to be scared to press buttons. Because if he's just walking around, he's getting poked. If he's trying to counter poke you or whiff punish you, you're getting the better of him there. So he's just like, damn, like what do I do? So a lot of times they're going to play a lot more defensive and they're going to kind of clam up and become reactive. Okay. So this is where pressuring comes in. And pressuring is just closing distance to initiate offensive pressure on your opponent. So say I feel like I've kind of tamed Casper in neutral here. What I'm going to do at the start, because it's, again, going back to risk reward, this is less risky. I'm going to kind of walk a little bit, then is closer for comfort for him. And again, this is dependent on me making sure I've got a sense of where he likes to throw buttons. And I'm just going to like throw a button. Okay. And if he tries to, oh, he dodged me, super swag. But if he tries to do something, chances are I'm going to be able to catch him with a counter hit like that. Now, if you feel like you got him really scared, sometimes what you can do is you can just run in and you can get a throw. Okay, and that sets you up for a knockdown, which Casper's about to go over here in a second, but that's an extremely advantageous situation for the attacker. All right, and then from there, how do you beat pressuring? How do you beat someone walking in on you and just kind of flexing on you? Well, we're at the top of the rock, paper, scissors now. You can't block when you walk forward in this game, and you definitely can't block with your face, so you just poke. You poke if you want people not to press, okay? So what you see in neutral and fighting games at a high level, when they're like wiggling around and pressing buttons and stuff, they're really rotating between those three options, and they're trying to incentivize the other person to make a bad decision that they can then capitalize on and get advantage. And again, just to recap, you've got poking, which is defeated by whiff punishing. There it is. And you've got whiff punishing, which is really defeated by pressuring because it's a reactive thing. If you're looking for a whiff punish, it's a lot easier for someone to walk in than it is if if you're looking for a poke as a whiff punisher and someone walks in, it's hard to react to because you're looking for a button. You're not looking for a guy moving. And then pressuring, of course, gets beat by just poking them in the face with your weapon. So, with that said, let's recap. So if I win by having more life or KOing my opponent, which happens when I have more advantageous decisions, I make those decisions by understanding the situations I find myself in, and I create advantage from those decisions. So we've gone over punishment. Now, the way you create advantage and punishment, get block punishes or anti-air people. Once you lock people down that way, the neutral game opens up. Then you do your poking, your whiff punishment, and your pressuring to get damage in neutral. Now, what is the best reward that you can get for winning neutral? Well, that will lead us into the knockdown and more generally the mix-up type situation. And with that, I'll pass it over to my buddy Casper.
Guys, if you want, you can switch over to watching my shared screen from this point forward. We're going to go over the next situation, this knockdown mix-up. So we hinted at it a little bit before. If you get like a throw, there's also moves like a sweep that can knock your opponents off their feet, and they hit the ground. When they do that, defenders do not have a lot of options. They only have a certain amount of things that they can do when they're getting up off the ground, meaning that you have a very clear advantage for the attacker. They're in the driver's seat. They get to decide what to do to the person that's standing up off of the ground. We refer to this situation as a mix-up, specifically because the person in the driver's seat gets to essentially throw out one of their options, and defender has no choice but to respond to the option that's thrown out by the attacker. It becomes a rock, paper, scissors game. Very similar to what we were talking about in the neutral, but this one seems it's a little bit more concrete than the neutral game, and you'll see that here in a second. Quick note, why we're going over this particular kind of situation, why we have the mix-up tag in general there, is that fighting games are full of mix-ups. The knockdown situation is not the only mix-up. It's not the only time you're playing like a rock, paper, scissors game. But it is an extremely fundamental one for most 2D fighters and most even 3D fighters to begin with. Understanding what happens when you get knocked down and what options you have when it happens is really, really important to get right off the bat, because it's one of the times where new players get the most abused, because they don't understand exactly what's happening and what options they even have at their disposal. So with that, let's talk about what the options are in the knockdown situation, and we're going to kind of start from the perspective of the attacker. So assuming you've just knocked down your opponent. Well, the first thing you can do is something that's probably going to come most naturally to new players in the game when they knock down an opponent, is wanting to press more buttons and get more attacks at them as they're standing up. We refer to this in the fighting game community as a meaty attack. That's an attack that's hitting the opponent like the frame they're standing off of the ground. Like, the aim is to get it to be as close as possible to that moment where they have stand up and just become vulnerable, but you don't have to be that precise in order for this to be effective. The idea is that if they get up and they're pressing any kind of a button, like any normal button, or if they're trying to throw you or something, a meaty attack is going to have more priority because it's going to be already out there and active, like Kris was talking about before. The punch has been thrown, and no amount of wind-up is going to beat what you have out there. So let's see what that looks like in practice. So let's say I get a knockdown off of a sweep here, Kris. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out an attack that's going to be really, really active, and it's going to be lingering around when Kris stands up. That's going to be the universal overhead. If Kris tries to press any button during this, he's going to get hit by the active frames of this overhead. And if I time it right and Kris presses the wrong buttons, he's even going to get counter hit, which denotes him flashing red there. That's showing that you get a counter hit, which allows you to get even more damage off of that correct decision. So if he tries to throw me, if he tries to press a normal button, he's going to be eating this damage. So now, it isn't rock, paper, scissors if there's no option that's going to beat this, right? So we got to talk about what beats this. So what's going to beat this meaty move is a move that's called, in pretty much all fighting games, a reversal. And I'll talk about reversals while we're waiting for the match to restart. So a reversal is a special move that has the property that it's invincible on wake up. It's a move that you can throw out that's going to beat anything else that's coming out at you. Pretty much every single fighting game has a move that functions as a reversal. And going back to the original Street Fighter games, they were the Shoryuken, or the Dragon Punch, from the original ones. So in like kind of a tradition ever since then, most reversals look like some kind of an uppercut, and their inputs are the same input as the Shoryuken. So for Gran, that's his little upward sword swing. And we'll see what that looks like. So when I knock Kris down, I'm going to try to get him with this meaty attack. But it's not going to work because his uppercut functions as a reversal, has invulnerability if timed correctly, and beats anything that I've got coming out. Right? So that kind of covers the first option here. So that's going to lose to a reversal. Now, you can also just block the meaty attack, but we'll get into that later. So now he starts throwing out this reversal that's going to be beating my meaty attack. What's my next option that I can throw out in the rock, paper, scissors game? Well, we talked about it before. The uppercut, that DP, is really, really unsafe. So if I block that DP, I just get a full combo on him. And if I know he's going to be putting out that DP, that is a great situation for me. So I knock him down. He thinks I'm going to do something, so he uses DP. I know he's going to do that, so I block and get a full punish on it. Right? So let's say, you know, I've now beat him with a meaty attack. I've beat him with block punishing. A lot of people now are going to clam up and just block when they get up, because every time they've tried to press a button or use an option, they've gotten punished for it. So now, if he just blocks when he gets up, I get to throw him. And that is the third option. There you go. So now we have this whole rock, paper, scissors game, right? I guess you can kind of guess what's going to be to throw. What's going to be to throw is if he just either tries to tech the throw, which would get him out of that throw situation. It looks like that. Or if he just like mashes like an attack button, it pretty much always will beat a throw attempt. So if I try to throw, he can just attack me out of it. So what beats him trying to tech throw or mash jab out of the throw? If I do the meaty attack. If he keeps trying to tech the throw, well, if I get the attack enough, he's going to get counter hit. So going back to the flowchart, you have a meaty attack that you can use that's going to beat them trying to throw you or attack you, but that's going to lose to a block or a reversal. If they start doing their reversals, you can block and punish them for it. And if they start clamming up and defending when they wake up, you can just throw them afterwards. So, quick note here, we did not talk about what happens if the opponent is just blocking your meaty attack. So you don't throw them, you're going for your meaty attack and they're blocking. So one of the reasons we go over this mix-up, as I said before, is that there are a lot of different mix-ups in fighting games. There's even a mix-up within the knockdown mix-up that we haven't touched on, which we'll talk about here for a little bit, which is the high-low mix-up, or in this game, overhead-low. So blocking isn't just blocking. There are things that you can block, like if you're standing, you can block an overhead, but you can't block. So go ahead and hold the block button. Even if he's holding the block button, I can still hit him with a low because he's not crouching. I'll wait for the round to reset here. So lows can only be blocked by a crouch block. Overheads can only be blocked by a standing block. If he's crouching and blocking, then I can hit him with an overhead, even if he's blocking and doing nothing. So, to put this in the context of a knockdown, if I'm going to be hitting with a meaty attack, I throw him. If my meaty attack is a low, he has to block low if he's deciding to block. If it's high, he has to block high. And this is like a 50-50 mix-up. It's not quite rock, paper, scissors, but it goes to the Yomi. He has to know or guess what I'm doing and block accordingly. All right, I don't think there was anything else I wanted to cover there, right, Kris?
No, I think we're good.
All right, so let's go on past this part. So what do you win off of this knockdown mix-up? Well, you can see if you win with a throw, right, you get another knockdown. If you win with like a low meaty attack, you can get another knockdown and put them right back in the same mix-up. But if you win with like a block on a unsafe attack that allows you to punish them, or if you get a counter hit meaty attack, that opens you up for a combo. Like, notice that this is the first time that we're talking about combos like 30 minutes into the presentation. It's because everything up to this point has been about decision making, and that is more important and more fundamental to the game, because at this point what you can realize is that combos are just an optimization tool. They capitalize on the situation that you created and allow you to get more damage, to cash in more damage afterwards. But what's great about Grand Blue is that you don't even have to practice like combos. You have an auto combo system that can allow you to cash in for a set amount of damage after you make a good decision. So that removes a whole level of needing to practice just to be able to get something functional that you can put into a game plan to start getting into the game and having fun with it. For this game, the auto combo system is done by just hitting any button close and then mashing any other button afterwards. So let's see what that looks like. If I block an unsafe move, then all I get to do, or have to do, is press a couple buttons and I can get a combo after. So that can work off of hitting a counter hit meaty. So if you want to press like throw, get on wake up, if I see that flash red, I can get a combo afterwards. For the purposes of just getting into a fighting game, being a beginner and just starting, the auto combo is really all you need. It's not all that exists in this game, certainly not in others. There are plenty of other combos that you can discover and practice. But to get started, that really should be enough. Granted that you get some special moves on point, specifically for this situation as a combo extender or a combo finisher. Special moves, they are powerful options that require a very particular input to execute. You can use them as offense, defense, in the neutral, or in combos depending on the moves, having special properties, yada yada. So what's cool about Grand Blue is that you also don't need to practice the special inputs for your special moves. There's a special move button that gives you shortcuts. So you can press the special move button for your fireball, for your uppercut, for your dash attack, the boot. The only difference is that if you use the special button, you get a short cooldown on your moves. And if you do the EX version, there's a damage penalty for using the shortcut button. But it does remove your need to really get those technical, like the Dragon Punch input or the Fireball input down. So if you're really just a beginner and those aren't coming out naturally, you can rely on the special button and it'll still allow you to participate in the game and use those options without having to go through all of that practice. Though, you still do get benefit out of practicing if you want to. So let's look at Grand Special moves for a little bit here. You've got a Fireball, which you can see reaches across the entire screen, controls all that space, and does damage if it connects. You have different versions of specials, but I won't really go over all that. Go to tutorials if you want to see their properties. We talked a bit about the boot. Controls nice space. You cover a lot of distance. You can use it to punish people who are just like out there whiffing normals, from mid-screen. We talked about the Dragon Punch, which is, invincible on wake up. It's also a great anti-air as well. So if opponents are jumping in, that special is really, really good for keeping them out. And pretty much every single one of Grand's special moves can be linked at the end of a combo. So after you do your auto combo, you can just press any one of your special moves and it'll combo out and give you a little bit of extra damage at the end. So I think you can also talk about super. There's a super move. Super move is in this game really a super move just functions as a extra damage ender for your combo. They also have like a shortcut input that's pretty easy to do. Pretty much everybody's special moves can be used at the end of their auto combo. So if you've got meter, you can just use your super move as a way to get even more damage at the end of your combo. So let's go over one more time, a little review. There was a lot of information there. So you win by having more life or KOing the opponent, which happens by making better decisions throughout a match. You can learn to make those better decisions by starting to understand the situations that you're finding yourself in, creating the advantage from them. So punishing an opponent who is playing overly risky, putting out unsafe moves, or jumping in without respect to your anti-airs. Learning to play the neutral, getting your pokes with punishing and pressuring strategies online, to start participating in that game, to win, maybe a knockdown with a sweep or a throw if you're able to get in. You can be in the driver's seat to apply, a meaty block or throw mix-up. Or winning with the meaty, if you counter hit, you can maybe get a combo. Or, if you win with a normal move, you may just get a combo even if it's not counter hit. Or you can possibly, if you hit with the low, you can get a knockdown going into another mix-up. Similarly with the throw, you can get that damage from the throw and an opportunity for another knockdown mix-up. And if you win with blocking an unsafe move, then you get the block punish as a reward and get maybe a full damage combo. So what happens if a situation is ambiguous and you can't tell exactly what categories this belongs in? Am I a neutral? I'm not in a knockdown, but maybe I'm getting hit with something that I don't understand why that's happening. And that's why why Kris ran over the situation to use it as a lens. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a situation that's kind of ambiguous, and we're going to use the tools that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation to try to break down and understand that situation. See if we can get a handle on what's happening and the best way to deal with it. So what we're going to start with, let's get this match restarted here, is we're going to talk about Grant's fireballs, or just fireballs in general as a spacing tool, right? So to start, let's say at full range, well, I'll show this here. We have spacing movement, right? Right here, if I throw a fireball, there's really nothing that my opponent can do to punish me for it, right? Even if he tries to, with the exception of EX fireball. He can't jump over the fireball. There's no move that he has that can reach me. The best thing he can do is contend with my fireballs with his fireballs, right? That changes as we get a little bit closer. Let's say I start throwing fireballs from this distance. I get punished if my opponent has the right read on me and can jump over my fireballs. So let's say I've been throwing fireballs all match and they've been pretty safe, and all of a sudden at a certain spacing, I start getting hit. Now I ask myself, okay, well, why did that happen? The first thing I have to, using the lens of the situation, I ask myself, well, what spacing did this happen at? Paying close attention that this didn't happen when we were full screen. This started happening when we were close here, right? And why did that start happening as we got closer? Because there are new options that came online for my opponent as that space closed down. And what option is the opponent using? Well, what he's doing is he's jumping in over my fireball, and he's hitting me out of, and punishing me. So now the question is, what options do I have to maybe try to punish that? Well, I could try my anti-air. So we'll see how that works. At a certain spacing, throwing my fireballs, I'll see if after I throw my fireball, I can punish him with maybe an anti-air or a DP. Yeah, that works out pretty well, right? But what happens? Sometimes that doesn't work out well. Sometimes I don't have enough time to throw out my DP, even if I know that he's going to be jumping over my fireball. That's because I was maybe too close. His jump was timed at the right time. He maybe had the read on exactly when I was going to throw my fireball. All it takes is a fraction of a second for me to be able to react with the DP, or me to get punished for throwing the fireball. And that's where the third stage of the situation comes in, the Yomi. If I know that he's looking for my fireball and I'm throwing my fireballs at this situation and he can punish me at a certain distance, I can wait, walk up into the place where I throw the fireball, know that he's going to jump in expecting the fireball, and get him with the uppercut. Now it becomes a game of, am I going to throw the fireball or am I not going to throw the fireball? It's a rock, paper, scissors. Am I going to do it? Am I not? I'm going to do it here, do it there. He got me because he guessed right. Do it? Am I? Nope. And I got him. And this is right here, this whole kind of situation, even though it's simplified down to just a fireball and a jump in, this is what fighting games are really about. It's about that situation where we both are aware of each other's options. We have defined a tendency for us to use those options, and it becomes us thinking about and trying to guess what the other person is going to do and use the correct option to punish them for it enough times to get the W. So you can see here is that, there is like that fireball situation. It's a very fluid thing, right? Like the properties of what that fireball can do and what your opponent can do against it change very fluidly as the space closes. I think one thing we didn't talk about is what happens if I'm just throwing fireballs like right up close. Like if we're right here, this fireball isn't reactable. Like you can't really jump over it. This fireball at this range is not really like a spacing tool. It's just a poke. It's a poke with different properties than the 5H or the 5M. So yeah, you can see that the properties of this fireball definitely change as you change the spacing. And using that framework, that strategic framework of looking at the spacing, the movement, the options, and the Yomi can help you get a handle on that situation, and you can apply that to other situations as well. So let's put it together. So with all the stuff that we've talked about, you can now try to start to construct a basic game plan that can at least serve as the starting point, strong foundation to engage with these fighting games and grow from there. This isn't going to necessarily be an optimized game plan for like Grand specifically or anything that's even robust or would be super successful in the game at large, taking it online. But it is something to ground yourself and allow you to view the game through the strategic lens and break out of the habit of just pressing buttons or trying to force a combo or something like that. So let's review the basic situations we talked about, and we'll try to identify the tools we'll need to succeed in those situations. So we have the punishment situation, neutral, and your knockdown mix-up. So for the punishment, we need to know what to do for block punishing. We need to know what we have for anti-air options. For the neutral, we need a poke, a whiff punish, special move to control space, pressure opponents, and a good sweep to try to score a knockdown. And after the knockdown, we need to know how to set up our meaty attacks, our timings for our throws when they're getting off the ground, and we need to know what our reversal is if we get knocked down and what we want to do to punish reversals when we know that they're coming. So let's create a strategy for Grand specifically. For punishment, for block punishing the anti-airs, you can use just your close light auto combo into a special or super if you get a good block punish. If you're anti-airs, you have your crouching heavy attack, or 2H, or your uppercut, or dragon punch. So you've kind of seen that a couple times already, but just to demonstrate again, if I get a good block punish on something I know is unsafe, I can just use a basic auto combo into a special attack. Again, for good measure. And then for an anti-air, I can just use my crouching heavy attack, keep them out, or DP if I want to as well. So now we have the neutral. We need a poke, a whiff punish, a special move, and a sweep. So for the pokes, you can use your 5M or your fireball at closer distances. For your whiff punishes, you can use the 5H or your boot to cover more ground. For this fireball or for controlling space.
And in case they don't know, Casper,
Yep.
For the notation, the num.
Oh yeah,
Directional
5
notation.
is neutral. 5 is like not pressing any button. So just standing normal medium attack or standing normal fire or heavy attack. And that's what the 5 is. And then 2 refers to crouching. And I think that'll be on the resource sheet as well. Special for controlling space would be fireball or boot. And then pretty much everybody's sweep is their crouching unique attack. Some of them may have different properties. But I think pretty much everyone will score you a knockdown. So let's see what that looks like. Let's go ahead and do the rematch. So good pokes, you can do your 5H from around this space here. Try to keep people out. Fireballs work pretty well at this space as well. They also cover if they, if the opponent kind of backs up out of that space. For your whiff punishes, if they're putting out their 5Ms, you can get a heavy whiff punish. So to set this up, I kind of have to be like moving in and out of this space. It's really hard to just do it on reaction, but it's pretty easy to do if you got their timing down, you have the read on it. To control space, we kind of talked about this. Well, that's a special move. You can throw your fireball. That kind of keeps them locked down. Or if they're kind of whiffing buttons kind of far away, you can come in with a boot, maybe clash them for some anime hype. And then for your sweep, 2H, or to you. Is that works as a sweep, gets you knockdown, and can help you apply a knockdown mix-up. So we need a meaty, get our throw timing, and a reversal. So for the meaty, you can get a counter hit overhead, which is what I've been kind of demonstrating. You can also meaty attack with any one of your normals. The safest one to do would probably be the medium. If you try to do a meaty with a heavy and it gets blocked, you'll be kind of more at risk. So medium is a good one to go for. And then after that, you can get your combo, same kind of auto combo situation as punishment situation. Getting the throw timing is just something that you kind of have to, get with experience. You may have noticed in the demonstration, I don't always get it exactly right. And then for the block punish situation, you can either do your auto combo or throw out any special move to punish. And if you're knocked down, your dragon punch is your reversal for Gran. So let's see what those look like. If I get a knockdown here, I can do a meaty attack. If you want to throw some buttons so I get the counter hit, I can follow up with a full combo. I can go for the throw, which I have to get the right timing. You see right there, I whiffed it because I didn't have the right timing. Doing a little early. There we go. And then after that, if I get knocked down, I've got to be able to get my reversal. Know how to do that. So if you want to knock me down, Kris, and then try to hit me with something, get the reversal on lockdown. And then if they try to do a reversal, get my block punish on point as well. So now that we've gone all over that, what we're going to do real fast is we're going to have actually, let's talk about this here. So with all this put together, this is kind of what the grand plan looks like, obligatory punt. So we can use the fireballs and the anti-airs to control neutral space, right? The aim of trying to push the opponent into the corner and get more pressure. So this is going to look like throwing a lot of fireballs and kind of baiting them to jump in over them and try to anti-air them when they do that. If they stop jumping and start countering the fireballs, we're going to try to work in the neutral with our 5H, 2U, boot, all of our neutral tools for poking and whiff punishing and trying to get in. And if we get in and we score a knockdown, we'll use these kind of tools for, participating in the knockdown mix-up. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let me just win this. Actually, why don't you win real fast, Kris? Just knock me out so we get another round here. What we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate just a round where both of us are going to be trying to implement this plan. So you guys can try to see if you can spot the different situations that we've gone over. And I'm going to try to call out the important stuff as it happens as well. The aim here is to see if that you can recognize through the kind of tools that we've been talking about when we're trying to put this plan into place. So to start, I'm going to try to control some space with fireballs. See if I can maybe catch him with a whiff punish. The aim is to try to maybe close some space. That's not working for me. Let me see if I can maybe get a jump in on him. Nope, he was ready for that here. So now, let's get this poke game on. See if I can, got me there. If I get in. All right, he got me. Try to go for a meaty. I was ready with the block. Let's see here. Got another knockdown. Nope, was blocking there. Knockdown. Got me with the reversal. All right. And yeah. So what happened there was at the beginning was using fireballs to try to create some space. Kris was kind of winning in that exchange and ended up getting to close the distance on me. There was a couple of knockdown mix-ups that happened where Kris was trying to hit me with meaties. I blocked a couple and ate a couple. There was a time where I got a knockdown, but then I ate the reversal as he came up. I made the wrong decision in that rock, paper, scissors match. And throughout the match, Kris just made the right amount of decisions to get me knocked out, which makes a lot of sense because he's a way better Gran than I am. Hopefully that was useful there. So, so that's kind of a basic looking Gran plan, if you will. by no means is that like an optimal grand strategy. That essentially is a strategy that dates all the way back to Ryu with throwing fireballs to try to bait anti-airs and then trying to poke with some good buttons. But Gran in this game is actually like more of an aggressively designed character, so this one isn't really even the optimal, but it is still, you know, it's a good solid plan. It has good solid fundamental fighting gameplay and is a great place to branch out for learning. And once you've decided that you want to move on past Gran, because there are other characters in this game, you know, the question is, how do you pick your character? You know, pick whatever excites you, whether that's because you like their aesthetic, their play style, maybe a single move that really just speaks to you, or maybe you like were a sweaty nerd and went and looked at some tier lists and found this person to be at the top of them. Whatever your reason is for picking up the character, just make sure that it's something that really speaks to you and excites you and makes you want to, you know, just engage with it more. And on that note, you know, we're talking about creating these game plans for characters. You know, these characters are also designed, you know, by the game designers to have a game plan. They were designed with that game plan already in mind. So, you know, it shouldn't come as a surprise that there are a lot of things to your character that will suggest and will be pushing you in a certain direction for a particular game plan. It's all a big, a constant process of discovery for yourself, finding these things out about your character, what makes it tick, and what makes it successful. And the rest of the community is also on that journey as well. And there's a lot of conversation back and forth between the things that are intended to be discovered by the developers, to their unintended consequences, to the community finding those, picking them up. There's this whole natural conversation about what makes your character and what game plans you can execute them. Once you've made your own basic game plan, you can go and join the rest of that community in that conversation. You know, find other info about your character, combine it with what you have. You know, don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. You know, if there are other people who have, you know, made a lot of progress on that journey, you know, steal what they have, prove it, make it better, make it your own. But also don't feel like you have to be put into a box. If there's a particular way that you want to express your character and that's what you want to do, you know, the game is there for you to have fun. So, and I think we'll have some resources that we can provide to you that would be good for helping you to learn your character and stuff like that. So with that, I'll hand it back over to Kris and go over what's next.
All right. All right, so what's next?
I think your mic is off.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm back. Hello?
Yo.
All right. Third time's a charm. You able to see my screen?
Let me see.
Yep.
Tight. Okay, so up next, we've got a lobby practice and coaching. Then if you're feeling comfortable or up for it, collisions, we run Tuesday night lobbies, and those will be directly afterwards. They start at 8, 8 if I remember right. They're 8 or 8:30. So you can jump in and play with, you know, there's going to be some other beginners in there and a good amount of intermediate and advanced players as well. Just to give you a heads up on what the next 2 sessions are going to be, they're going to be every Tuesday. We're shooting for all of them to be about 2 hours. This is going to be the most like lecture heavy one. And it was a necessary evil. We needed to get some fundamental stuff in place so that y'all could really like take off and do your own thing. We don't want there to be any more than 30 minutes and ideally less of talking in the other ones, lecture style talking. Most of it's going to be us like playing with y'all and giving y'all tips and discovering the game along with y'all. So for the next session, we're going to send out a reference sheet with all the definitions and some copies of some of the key slides for y'all to review if you so desire. And there's also going to be a character creation sheet on there. So the same exercise we went through on here where you're finding tools for these like discrete situations, you'll have an opportunity to do that for whatever character you choose. If you want to do it for homework, sweet, go ahead and do it, bring it to the next session. If not, we can build that during the session. That's fine. We're going to spend about 30 minutes just reviewing game plans and talking about those. And then about an hour and a half of just practicing and coaching and playing and having a good time. And then lobbies, of course, will be after. And then the final session, what we'd like to do is we'll have 30 minutes of just touching up the loose ends, if you will, like practice and coaching. And then we really want to put on like a round robin tournament. It's going to be kind of difficult depending on the platform, because I think we only have like 3 or 4 people on PS4. So there's a skew towards PC, but we're going to try to do it for both platforms if at all possible. And that'll be cool because you guys will get a chance to like actually play in a competitive setting with people of similar skill and just get a sense of like what that feels like. And then again, lobbies are after that. And then I don't know if you guys saw the announcement, but I think it's Rivals is the name for it. But John and John, I'll let you speak more to this, but it's essentially just like a month or 2-month long online tournament series that's about to start, I think this weekend or next weekend, that you guys can jump in and participate in as well, if you so desire. So with that, John, I'll pass it back to you if you have any closing words, man.
Sweet. No, thank you guys so much. And thanks for everybody for being here. And thanks to Kris and Casper for doing a great job. That was awesome. So yeah, Rivals is coming up this weekend. That is basically an online local. Like, we basically lost locals. So basically what we've done instead is we've set up an online league. We're running it from now until the end of June, and that's going to be entirely online. So this week, Combat Championship Series is hosting it. Next week, we'll be the ones hosting it. And it's just a fun way to kind of like learn, play alongside other people, like, and just play with other guys in DFW. Vast majority we are region locked, so you'll at least be playing people in Texas. So from here, we wanted to hop into lobbies. Kris, if you want to turn your mic on, and we can kind of get this organized.
Sure.
I think what we'll do then, so Collisions has 2, if all of y'all check in your voice channels, Collisions has 3 lobbies. We can probably put, I'd say let's put the PC users in lobby 1, and then the PS4 users in lobby 2, and y'all just hop in there, and we'll get information to you. The PS4 one is going to be, the room is going to be called Collisions. The password is going to be FGC. So, and then if there's any other information, just put it in the Senpai No Workshop channel. Does that make sense, Kris?
Yeah, it makes sense. Are there any questions from any of the participants about that?
So you said PC in lobby 2?
PC in lobby 1.
Lobby 1. Sorry.
Yep. Anybody else? Any other questions? I know there was a lot of information real quickly.
What lobby for PS4?
PS4 is on lobby 2.
All right, sweet. I have to finish my place. I'll do that real quick and then hop in.
Sweet. Okay. Any other questions? Cool. Yeah, thanks, fellas. And then, the way this is going to work is basically like we're going to match you up with some of the senpais in the group so that they can kind of train with you and kind of give you some feedback on like just your gameplay. So feel free to ask questions, get feedback, let them pick their brain, let them pick yours, and vice versa. So, yep. Okay, we'll see you in lobbies.
All right, so wait, how where's Kris? I guess going.
What up, boys?
Hey. That was really good.
Sweet. Okay, I'm glad.
I was really impressed with the presenters. I was like, dang, this is high level.
Dude, every time Kris
Their speaking ability was so good. I was so impressed.
That and just the what's it called? Dude, just the curriculum in general. Like when we looked at
oh yeah,
like what the hell? Like Jesus, Kris. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was good. I got some Core A flashbacks, so
Core A
that
flashback.
was a good sign for me.
Actually, lobby's made, fellas. So we good to go.
Yeah, I made it actually. So.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah. Me and Chris are already
JK.
in this one. Yeah.
Let me find yours. Thanks, Bus. All right, let me shoot a message real quick.
That's a cute unique for Vegeta.
It is really good.
All right. No, not fine. All right. Oh, and let me stop streaming.
Hello?